Hello, welcome to Day One Path Podcast, episode 506. I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Just Matt here today. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing all right, yeah.
We got some stories coming up, including such things as Xbox taking more exclusive games multi-platform, Microsoft confirming a handheld is in the works, and then GOG is working on video game preservation. So we're going to start with video game fun facts. Matt, take it away.
So this week I went down, I want to say memory lane, but this is sort of before my time. But I went down sort of the memory lane of video games in general, and I'm tapping into arcades, specifically the downfall of arcades and the rise of home consoles, which of course are still very popular as of today. So I've kind of divided this up into several sections, which I'm going to start at the beginning, which is why it happened. So there are 5 reasons that I have here why the downfall of arcades happened. Number one here is advanced technology. So by the late 70s and in the 80s, hardware improvements allowed home consoles such as the Atari 2600, which is very popular, and the NES, also very popular, to replicate or at least emulate arcade experiences. These pieces of hardware were not as powerful as arcade cabinets, but they were still fun, visually engaging games, all from the comfort of your own home, and they were not eating up your quarters, which leads into the next thing I have here, which is cost and convenience. So arcades, of course, required players to constantly pump quarters into the machines, whereas home consoles offered unlimited play after an upfront investment. And you also had the convenience of playing at home, which is great for, you get to use the bathroom, you're comfortable. And also at these arcades, of course, a lot of, snack bars kind of arose. So you getting snacks while you're there and things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously the snacks at the snack bar are going to be more than at the grocery store when you're eating at home. So then there was also the arcade saturation. So by the mid 1980s, arcades had become oversaturated with too many games, which led to a decline in excitement. Players were looking for something fresh and more accessible. And then came along the video game crash. So I want to do a fun fact on this actually later because I don't know much about this, but the video game crash came about in 1983. And this was due to poor quality control in home gaming, thanks to a flood of bad games such as E.T., which is, yes, E.T., that E.T., the
Yeah.
extraterrestrial. And this caused a massive industry collapse. However, the NES, which we already mentioned, launched in 1985, excuse me, and this revitalized the market. And this proved that home gaming could thrive with the right approach. So basically, the crash happens, and there's kind of a question of like, hey, is video gaming going to die in general? Because we have all this sort of writing on the wall that people are getting a little fatigued of arcades for various reasons. But now we also have this video game crash due to home gaming not doing well. So what's going to happen here? But home gaming, of course, kind of came out ahead out of this crash. And also, and the last point I have here for why it happened is a multiplayer appeal. So home consoles introduced new ways for families and friends to play together, making gaming a social activity in living rooms rather than solo sessions in arcades. Now, I know there's going to be some people that say, hey, there's a lot of video games or a lot of arcade cabinets that, like, let's say they're shooters and they have two guns and you can, both sort of play it. This is very true. However, we're talking about, sort of the couch co-op era is beginning here. And the couch co-op era, and if we already mentioned it, the sort of cost and convenience of being at home, you're not, because right now, imagine, you're trying to convince your friend today to buy a multiplayer game. They got to invest, $70 to $90, whatever, if it's new, things like that. It's a pain to get them to do it. Well, when you're at the arcade, sure, you can play co-op, but it's like, hey, man, like I still have 3 quarters. Let's do 3 more rounds. Your friend is out of quarters and you've just lost. And it's like, now you have to like either divvy up the quarters or you're going to be pissed at each other for one person didn't want to continue when you got far in the game and stuff. So like if you're at home, there's none of that, right? You're at home. It's your couch. It's a private area. You can have chats. You can pause the game and things like that. So it's kind of like a more, dare I say, intimate experience for multiplayer. And again, sort of the rise of that couch co-op era. And so basically in the in the early stages of this sort of arcade downfall, we'll say, which was 1970s to 1980s, the Magnavox Odyssey, which was made in 19 or released in 1972, set the groundwork for home gaming. But it wasn't until the Atari 2600, which was 1977, that sort of arcade to bridges kind of became clear. It was sort of like, hey, instead of me going and pumping all my quarters in here, I can use this Atari 2600. I can use this Magnavox Odyssey. Most more than likely, you were talking about the 2600. I can do this instead, because the Atari actually brought home versions of arcade hits like Asteroids and Missile Command,
Mhm.
and these things were simpler. Like Missile Command has like the big trackball and things like that when you're at the arcade, and that obviously isn't the case with the Atari. But this is sort of like a slight downgrade for a lot of like positives, which we've already mentioned. So by the early 1980s, consoles started competing directly with arcades. So systems such as the ColecoVision, which was in 1982, they boasted arcade quality visuals for the time, featuring ports of popular games such as Donkey Kong. However, the games often lack the intricate detail or smooth performance of their arcade counterparts because of the sort of difference in computing power available. And this forced developers to innovate gameplay rather than focus solely on graphical fidelity. It's kind of weird to think about a company having to worry about graphical fidelity back in the 70s and 80s, but it did happen
Right.
during this sort of downfall of the arcade. Nintendo, of course, we've already mentioned it, but Nintendo had a major breakthrough in 1985 with the NES, and this was a turning point. Its focus on home exclusives with deep narratives and replayability, such as Super Mario Bros. And The Legends of Zelda, created a new standard. These were not just ports of these popular arcade games, like we've already mentioned, they were tailor made experiences that felt more rewarding and long lasting. Peripherals, such as the NES Zapper, which was primarily used for Duck Hunt, and the Power Pad introduced interactive play that wasn't practical in arcades and brought back a little bit of that. I don't know if you'd call it nostalgia at this period because it's still the 80s, but it brought back that sort of like, hey, I'm picking up a gun in a shooter in the arcade. It's like, hey, I'm picking up my NES Zapper and I'm using it, and it's really, really similar. So players started becoming accustomed to having these peripherals, having these, these specific deep narrative replayable games at home. And so the whole arcade era really starts to unwind. And while direct ports like Pac-Man remained popular, home gaming increasingly began to diverge from the arcade. So Nintendo had their success with the Legend of Zelda, of course, with Super Mario Bros. Like we said, but Sega's Master System and later the Genesis brought home titles like Sonic the Hedgehog, which were fast-paced like arcade games but optimized for home enjoyment. The Super Nintendo in 1990 took it further with big RPGs such as Final Fantasy VI, and co-op adventures such as Contra 3, and technically impressive ports such as Street Fighter 2. So now we're talking about, this Nintendo console, the Super Nintendo 1990, starts giving players arcade quality graphics at home, and now players are playing unique games at home like the ones we just mentioned. So now there's like, not only is there sort of like physical reasons to leave the arcade such as money and comfort, but you're also starting to get like, hey, I kind of want to play Super Mario Bros. I kind of want to play Contra, and like I can't do that in the arcade, right? Whereas before it was like kind of a question of like, well, do you like Pac-Man in the arcade or do you like Pac-Man at home? Like, which one do you prefer, right? And
Yeah.
typically it'd be Pac-Man in the arcade. I mean, with some exceptions, of course, but typically it would be the arcade version because the arcade version had a literal hardware step up. Things ran smoother and looked better. So at this point, we start seeing sort of a sharp decline in arcades. So by the late 1980s and early 1990s, the arcade scene was flooded with repetitive genres, particularly beat 'em ups, um, and fighting games. So things like Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat reigned supreme, but countless copycats diluted the excitement for games such as these,
Oh.
and players began seeking more varied experiences, which home consoles were better positioned to provide. So the rise of the 16-bit consoles such as the Genesis in 1989 and the aforementioned Super Nintendo in 1990 marked a seismic shift. These systems were very powerful for the time and could handle graphically intense arcade-like games at a fraction of the cost. And the experience of playing games like Mortal Kombat or NBA Jam at home without feeding quarters was really hard to beat. And then, of course, you also had that home comfort, which we've mentioned a few times. And then we had the arrival of CD based systems with Sony's PlayStation in
Baby.
1994 and Sega Saturn with 1995, which further drove the nail down into the coffin for these arcades because these consoles offered advanced 3D graphics and expansive games, such as iconic ones that are still around today, Resident Evil and Final Fantasy VII, that simply weren't feasible for coin op machines. And as home gaming soared, arcades just straight up became less profitable. Maintenance for these machines were high, and remember that each of these machines, with few exceptions, was a single game. So you have all these chips and all these controllers, these guns and everything, and they're getting public use, and so they're getting beat up. And so these things are like these arcades, let alone these arcade machines, are really expensive to actually keep up and running. And then the rise of rental services comes in, such as Blockbuster, and then this
Mm.
this really shows off the value of home console. So gamers could easily try games by renting them, or if you were a weekend gamer, you could, instead of purchasing a game outright, you could go to Blockbuster on the weekend and then for a few dollars rent it for Saturday and Sunday, beat it or kind of get your fill of it, and then the next weekend rinse and repeat after returning the game. So by the late 1990s, arcades found themselves relegated to niche roles, focusing on specialized experiences such as dance games, which most popularly, or at least most popularly that I know of, is DDR or Dance Dance Revolution, light gun shooters like Time Crisis, and multiplayer cabinets such as the Simpsons arcade game. And these experiences remained unique, but they were not enough to keep arcades at the forefront. However, quite a legacy has developed. We still have arcades today, and there's reasons for that. So, arcades pioneered the social aspect of gaming. The competitive energy of playing Street Fighter 2 against a stranger, achieving a high score on a leaderboard that was going to be listed, in front of all your friends and in front of your community. Maybe you lived in a small town that had one arcade, and everyone knows, oh, Matt's at the top of the leaderboard. That's pretty cool. Everyone's trying to fight for it. You can't really capture that with at-home gaming. The neon lights and the music and the coin op mechanics, um the little snack shacks and those type of things. The legacy behind those is that we now have things like retro arcades where it's like, hey, remember when nostalgia, come and play our arcade games, or really popularly barcades now, where a lot of
Right.
barcades will have sort of like a simple kitchen where you can get, burgers, fries, some snacks. You have these old arcade games and you can also get some drinks, and it's a nice little like sort of like, hey, come and hang out. But one thing I have noticed with barcades is that they actually have home consoles a lot of the time, or at the very least, they have like booths, sort of like you would assume like a food booth where you sit down and eat. But sometimes they'll have a TV in there with home consoles actually there with a TV or an emulator that plays home console games. So, even when you're at a modern, let's say, arcade, the influence of the home console is hard to beat. Many modern gaming staples owe their roots to the arcade. So this is another part of the arcade's legacy. So joystick controls, dual player setups, motion sensing innovations such as DDR, and as well as actually a couple of the games I mentioned on last week's fun fact, laid the groundwork for motion devices such as the Wii, even really modern VR systems and modern peripherals such as the Wii Zapper. And while the traditional arcades faded, the concept has since evolved. So today's arcades exist as a broader part of the entertainment experience. Think about something like a Dave and Buster's, right? Something like
Yeah.
that. There's those retro gaming cafes. There's the barcades that I already mentioned, which are very popular in the area we're at. And then also they're used to, I don't know if you'd call it exemplify, but they're used as sort of a side gig, I guess, of other entertainment systems, such as there may be an arcade inside of your local movie theater.
Hmm.
And that's it. That's the downfall of the arcade, the rise of the home console, and the legacy that arcades left behind for us.
Man, bringing up the theater, it's almost like the same thing's happening where it's like you used to have to go to a theater to see a big screen and a amazing sound system, but now that's possible to get not an equal size screen, but at least a big screen and decent sound at home, and so like theater sales are going down. It's almost the same thing. If you can get it at home, it's gonna eat away from the public offerings.
Well, one thing that you and I had mentioned too is that theaters really didn't haven't really tried to innovate much. There has been some innovation, like they have
Well,
4DX, which has like snow and things like that. They got Screen X, which has the like stretch screen. They got D Box, which has the motion seats, right? And then of course you have
yeah.
your higher quality stuff like IMAX and stuff. But the thing is like when you go there, it's like the seats are old. Even the D Box seats are kind of grimy now.
Oh God, they're horrible.
Like
Because
who
I think they
chose
were
bright
leather and
red?
they just aged very poorly.
Yeah, like who chose bright red for like a publicly constantly used?
Well, they wanted you to see it and be like, "What's that?" When you
Right.
didn't buy a D box seat. Um, yeah, so I think they tried, but I was kind of talking to you, and it's like it seems like IMAX is the only place that's really making money right now, and it's like theaters I think are just going to become specialized places. And what I would really love to see pop up is more just IMAX only or Dolby theaters that have like just the most pristine quality visuals and sound. You know, I think that's probably the future of theaters. Because that's where I go. I want to see an IMAX movie in IMAX. I don't always go see a smaller film in a small theater because it's just not really worth it. You know?
Well, we went to go see Oppenheimer and 70
Yeah.
millimeter, and we went to. I mean, it was a Cineplex, but it was a pretty strangely laid out theater. It was almost flat, which was really weird
It might be like an old school theater.
that they've
It didn't
retrofitted,
have
right?
like it doesn't have the same level of stadium seating. It's more just a slight elevation. You know.
And we were like pretty far back, and I like you could. I mean, I could definitely see what was going on, but it would definitely felt weird to not have my entire vision taken up by the screen. Like I was looking at the screen, but I could have looked off left and right very easily.
Well, I was a little disappointed because that wasn't the one I wanted. They had several versions of Oppenheimer. They had uh IMAX, obviously. Then they had IMAX 70 millimeter,
Yep.
and then they had 70 millimeter. That one was 70 millimeter. So that one wasn't shown on a big screen. It was just
Right.
we were watching a 70 millimeter cut of the film. Um, I would have liked to have seen an IMAX 70 millimeter, which I'm not sure what that is because IMAX itself is film. So I'm not. I don't. Is it always 70 millimeter? I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Well, the 170 millimeter theater that's near us, IMAX 70 millimeter, the one that's near us sold out, which is why we couldn't
Yeah,
go, and now
yeah,
it's closed down.
yeah.
So a little sad.
Well, because dealing with film, like I don't know if you ever saw like on social media the film reel for Oppenheimer.
No.
It's like 12 feet across. It's like it's ridiculous.
Holy crap.
That's not the actual dimensions, but it's a massive film reel that they have to ship, and it's a lot of work and money probably. So
I mean, you're
it's
literally
wild.
bringing in frames, like physical frames of a movie.
Physical frames, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's a crazy concept in today's sort of digital society.
But to bring it back to arcades, what is your relationship with arcades? Do you have any memory of them?
I remember seeing them when I went to the movie theater. I didn't really play them too much. I did play like a fair bit of pinball. My uncle was really into pinball, and so I'd play pinball with him if we went to like a mall and there was an arcade. I remember if, like first time playing pinball, we went to some small mall, or even don't even remember where. But like he was kind of like, man, I kind of feel like playing pinball, and he's like, maybe I'll show you it. But he's like, I don't really know if there's arcades anymore. And it was like probably late '90s, and I was like, I don't know, like I'll do it, like I'll try it. And so we went in, and their arcade was relegated to like basically like a closet. So they did still
Mm,
have an arcade in there. Like a lot of malls at the time still had arcades, but they were starting to fade away. And this was just like again like a closet with like maybe 5 or 6 games. But we played pinball there, like and that was pretty fun. And like I mean, we played a lot of digital pinball on the computer as well. So we've
oh
played
yeah.
pinball, like we've so that's kind of my arcade. That's kind of my arcade exposure. What about you?
It was always just kind of like at the movies or something. We never really went to an arcade. I don't even know if there were any near us. Like the mall did not have an arcade in it, as far as I can recall. Um, Maybe it did before that, but I don't know. This one, um, I always liked them as a kid. I was drawn to them as a kid, but we just never really did it too often. My parents didn't really care about video games that much. But nowadays it's like I don't even want to touch that stuff. You
Oh,
know,
because it's grimy, right?
a thousand kids have like touched this thing and definitely didn't wash their hands, and so it's probably gross.
Well, the modern, I didn't really mention this, but like obviously you have the barcade experience, but there's like sort of the modern arcade. I did mention Dave and Buster's. That's an example of one where it's like you go there and it's all about getting tickets to then get stuff at the end. And I kind of hated that
Yeah.
because I was like, man, like I'm here to play like I think they have a Halo cabinet called like Halo Fireteam Bravo or something like that.
Mm.
And I'm like, man, I like, I want to play Halo and I want to do stuff like that. And there's like a Fast and Furious game. So I'm like, oh, I'll play that. But it's like it's economically not as good as some other games where it's like, hey, if you play this other game, it's less fun, or at least it's less fun to me, but you'll get more tickets, and so it becomes
Hmm.
this like chase of the ticket rather than being like, oh, I want to go and play these specific games. And so I don't mind doing it occasionally. Like I've done a couple like double dates there and stuff like that, like whatever.
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's just sort of like if us four were going out, for dinner. Like if it was like Adriano, Marty, and like you and I or something, just as an example, it'd be like, I wouldn't suggest we go there.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like Tim and I have done like a double date to a barcade. And like that was really fun. So like a
Hmm.
barcade is great because a barcade, it's like they give you a card. You basically pay, sometimes there's cover or whatever, but you basically just go and it's unlimited play. You just go and you play whatever you want. And so you're playing for the sake of playing. And because you're there, you're now making them money because you're like buying drinks, you're buying food, you're staying there later, you're buying dessert. And so that was a ton of fun.
Hmm.
But like the ticket one, I'm kind of like, like it kind of ruins it a bit because you never see the kids. Like I've been to a couple of those like arcades, like I said, with the tickets, and you never see the kids like try the Halos or try any of that. They're just doing like the gambling games, the deal or no deals and crap like that, trying to get frickin' tickets. And I'm like, you're getting tickets, like you're spending like $50 to get Dollarama items that you're gambling for. Like it's just like to me, it's just I don't know, it's just silly to me.
They always do have like some big prizes at the top, like an Xbox or something, and it's
Yeah,
like 150,000 tickets, and it's like you're not getting that in one night. You know, if ever, it's just there to tempt you into thinking you can get there, right?
yeah.
But you
Well,
usually
they
end up with like an eraser and a pencil.
Yeah, it's like that's what I mean. Like it's just or like the big one now is like candy. So you can get like candy and stuff when you're there and stuff. And one thing I
Which I
hate is
think is
it's
more useful than an eraser.
that's true. Like you don't want to get like, as a kid, you're not gonna want to get like stuff for
Yeah,
your pencil box or whatever.
yeah.
But what sucks about it is like you're there and it's like you're getting like grab bag stuff. Like I don't even
Hmm.
know if kids parties still do grab bags, but you're getting
Right.
like grab bag level stuff. And if you really want to save up for that Xbox, you're probably better off just saving up the money for the Xbox.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna actually like I mean I haven't done the math of it, whatever, but I would imagine it's gonna be pretty close, but I wouldn't be surprised if the arcade would come out ahead. You spent more on the arcade time than you did if you just paid for the Xbox outright.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Matt. That was good.
Thank you, Ryan.
Gonna hop into our stories of the week. First up is Microsoft gaming boss Phil Spencer won't rule out any Xbox exclusive making the jump to PlayStation, including Halo. This is my GN. Um, Microsoft has so far used older games released over a year ago for its multi-platform push, as opposed to brand new games. That will soon change with the release of Indiana Jones. Microsoft will launch Machine Games' hotly anticipated Xbox game on PS5 just a few months after it launches on Xbox and PC this December. It's the latest first-party Xbox game to make the jump to a rival console, following the release of Obsidian's Pentiment and Grounded. Uh, Pentiment and Grounded, Tango Gameworks' Hi-Fi Rush, and Rare's Sea of Thieves earlier in 2024. In June, Microsoft announced id Software's upcoming Doom: The Dark Ages will also launch on PS5 next year. Spencer has said Xbox's multi-platform push is in part about bringing in more money to Microsoft's gaming business, with the pressure now to deliver following its eye-watering $69 billion acquisition of Call of Duty maker Activision Blizzard last year. Quote, we run a business. It's definitely true inside of Microsoft. The bar is high for us in terms of the delivery we have to give back to the company because we get a level of support from the company that's just amazing and what we're able to do, what we're able to go do. So I look at this, how can we make our games as strong as possible? Our platform continues to grow on console, on PC, and on cloud. It's just going to be a strategy that works for us. Um, I keep hearing now. I don't see this directly because I don't kind of follow a lot of like just random people, but I keep hearing that Xbox fans are upset by this. Do you see any logic there?
Upset by the exclusives, or
They felt well. I remember this happening a while back when some other game came to PlayStation. They felt betrayed or something, as if they were owed exclusives. It's like, oh, we invested in the Xbox platform and ecosystem, and we're owed exclusives for some reason, as if that was their payment, even though they can still play those games on their Xbox.
I mean, I don't know what their specific gripes were, but I will say that it is a little bit weird if you're a multi like platform gamer and you're not really a part of the console wars. And so at the beginning of this generation, you bought an Xbox and you also bought a PlayStation. It is a little bit
Oh,
bizarre that it's like, hey, I could have just bought a PlayStation, right? Now
yeah.
there is like one difference, which is Xbox Game Pass, of course, is on the Xbox, and that's the exclusive thing. But I mean, it feels kind of shitty to have your exclusive thing be just a service. That feels
Hmm.
pretty bizarre.
But
I think.
obviously, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I think Nakey Jakey had a video about this recently, right? Or not about this article, but he had a video where he was kind of saying like, what's the point in buying an Xbox if everything's available on PC? And
Yeah,
that was kind of what you had said, Ryan, when you got
that's
into
the boat
PC
I'm in.
building.
Hmm.
So it's
Like,
like, you know,
yeah, because I bought an Xbox because like I'm a console gamer. I play games on console, and the PC was kind of just there for me to look at pretty games. But then when it ends up running games better, you're kind of just like, well, maybe I should just use this instead, because the one was Starfield. It now runs on at 60 FPS on console, but at launch it didn't. And so it's like I'm gonna play it on PC and get great visuals at 60 FPS. Why not? If I have if I have the PC. And so I've rarely touched my Xbox console. Playing Call of Duty with you right now is the most I've played that console in close proximity each time. So pretty wild.
I mean, like I have a good PC and I definitely play a lot of stuff on the Xbox, but a part of that comes from the fact that I work on the computer and I also work from home. So, I'm in this. I mean, just to be straight up, it's like I'm in this chair all day, and then it's like, okay, it's time to go play, some Xbox or trying to go play some games, and it's like continue sitting in this chair. It's like not only is that kind of painful because I've been in the same seating position this whole time, but at the same time, it's like I kind of want to just lounge on the couch, and I kind of don't want to deal with the PC anymore, and so I'll just like boot up an Xbox. However, I will say like one thing that the major thing that's keeping me on the Xbox is like I do have a community of people on there that play consistently. That's a
Right.
big part of the time. The another big part of the time is Game Pass in general, which is obviously I'm downloading games and playing those. So that's cool. But like given like if I wasn't able to have an Xbox for some reason, given that situation, I mean, a PC is fine. Like a PC just makes sense. It's like I can download most of the Xbox, game library on here. There's PC Game Pass, and there's a bunch of crossover there, and I can stream the rest of the Xbox game library for the most part, right? So
Hmm.
there is a question of like, why bother having an Xbox? Um, this ties in nicely to the recent advertising campaign of the. I don't know if you've seen it, Ryan, where it's like this is an Xbox. Have you seen that? Where it shows
Yeah.
like a picture of a phone and a this and a that, all these other devices. And I think I think it's a stupid idea. I don't think they should show that because people are gonna look at that. Like here's the thing is I definitely have a bit of loyalty and I have enough money to purchase an Xbox. I have
Hmm.
nostalgia for the Xbox. The 360 was sort of like our golden era of gaming, whatever. And so I have a bit of loyalty there. I also have the Game Pass, and I have a community of friends on there. So that's another two things. So I have say three or four things that are keeping me on an Xbox. Absolutely. The thing is, though, is there's a lot of people out there whose only care on most things is the purchase price. And if you tell them you don't need to purchase this, they'll go, all right, and then that'll be it. They will not purchase an Xbox then. They'll just use their
Well,
phone, or they'll just use their tablet, or they'll look up, or they'll get Xbox Game Pass running on their Fire TV stick, or they'll get it working on their Google TV, or whatever other device, whether that's official or hacked on, whatever. That's what'll happen. And that, to me, is going to hurt their hardware.
but their hardware is already hurting. I think it's already happening.
It's hurting, but it's not in a state in which games are skipping the Xbox. We're not in an era of like there's nothing to do on Xbox because no one's developing for Xbox. Like once you start seeing developers shy away, then you have a big problem. I mean, we had the alleged sort of complaints from developers, which was the Game Pass, or the Xbox Series S was too underpowered. And even if we assume that those complaints are correct and they reside throughout the majority of developers in the industry, that was still not enough to turn them away. They weren't like, well, if there's no one on Xbox, we're leaving. So when we
Mhm.
say like they're hurting, they are hurting in relation to their competitor, but they're not at 10 sales,
No.
right?
Um, but I think they're definitely doing the Netflix playbook, where Netflix built a large community of subscribers based on third party games, or not games, movies and TV shows. Right? Everyone got interested. That's the whole Game Pass model. There's a bunch of third party games, more third party games than first party games on Game Pass. At least 2 years ago or whenever it launched. More than that, I think. Right? Um. Oh yeah, it was launched a long time ago, didn't it?
Xbox One.
Yeah. Holy crap! Was it Xbox One?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Wow. So now their objective is to get people playing their games, just like Netflix was like Netflix originals, which are probably now the most viewed content on their platform. That's where Xbox is transitioning to. That's why they're buying Bethesda and Activision Blizzard, and they even I think Phil Spencer in the same interview even said that they're looking at more acquisitions. They want to be a content machine, not a hardware machine anymore. They want to churn out content. So they don't care if you buy an Xbox or not. They don't care. They're still going to make one because they still have a passion for it. And it's still, like you said, selling well enough, you know, but they don't really care where you play their games. They just want you playing their games and paying for Game Pass. That's what their objective is.
And I get that to an extent. I mean, as a business, like if you're nostalgic for something and you keep trying that thing and trying that thing and it's failing you or it's not doing as well as you need it to, then you need to look at other avenues. And if alienating, the small fan base of the Xbox at this point, if you're alienating those people, I mean, unfortunately, it's like, yeah, but there's more people on the other side. There's more people on the PlayStation. There's more
Yeah.
people on the phones. And so at the end of the day, we want, want a number of gamers on our thing, and we'll turn our back on these are made up numbers, but we'll turn our back on the 1 million to go toward the group of 4 million.
Right.
Right. There's that. I mean, it is a risk, no doubt. Like
But I don't think
it's
they're turning their
possible.
back on anyone. They're not abandoning their Xbox players. That's why they're still saying we have a commitment to the console.
Right.
And there's Indiana Jones is coming out first on the Xbox. He had to wait several months to get it on PlayStation. So it's
Right.
still a place where, although that's a little weird because during the Activision Blizzard acquisition, they told all the regulators, these games are going to be parity on across consoles, right?
Not that. That
Not
was Call of
Bethesda,
Duty. That was Call of Duty.
only Call of Duty,
I only remember parody talks about Call of Duty.
and that launched on PS5 on the same day, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If that's the case, then yeah, I guess that's fine. But it was just weird that they were making this that the games will not run better or the games won't offer a better service, I guess, on Xbox than they will anywhere else. That was kind of one of the promises they made. But anyway, so they're not abandoning anyone. It's just I think they believe there's more gamers out there who don't know they're gamers and they're trying to figure out ways to get those people in. And obviously most people have a smartphone nowadays and most people stream video, and so it's not a big leap for them to stream games. And I think that's what they're trying to push and see if that works. But I don't know if it's going to or not.
Well, one thing I was going to say is they're not turning their back right now. I agree with that because they still have the console. But one thing that I think that they are doing, or that they could do, and realistically it may happen, is you your console sales are not doing too well. You start kind of not necessarily turning your back on the console, but you stop focusing on it, and you're like, oh, it's a passion project. I mean, a passion project within a corporation that primarily cares about profitability is a big question mark. And there's two ways this could go about. Is like the demise of the of Xbox hardware is possible. I think at this point, number one is if users stop buying the Xbox, like if they feel alienated now, if the fan base feels alienated now, even if they were, or even if they are or not truly alienated, they feel that way right now. If that's true, and the next Xbox comes out, so I'm just going to call it the Xbox Two, just for the sake of conversation. So the Xbox Two comes out, and that thing does even worse. Now we have a problem of who's going to support that thing. Like, are you going to have developers fall off? Are you going to have people fall off? All this chatter as well gets people scared. Like one thing that people really like these days when they use an app or any sort of program is support, right? They want updates in that.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will look and go, "Oh, this hasn't been updated in 2 years," and they'll leave. But it's such a simple app; it just hasn't needed to be updated. Like it's just like something that tracks your PDFs or something, and there was no need for an update. There was no need for continued support or rapid fire support. And so if the Xbox, kind of hits a point where the support starts to fail, like games start skipping it, users aren't using it, it's like that's a major problem. And the second way it could potentially fail is if the suits come a knocking and they go, "Hang on, this is making 100, all your other your phones and your game passes and your this and your that, these are all making 100 billion, and the Xbox, these are all made up numbers, and the Xbox is making 10 billion. Get it out of here. Take all that staff, lay them off, get rid of them. We don't have to pay for them anymore, and hire new staff to make sure that 100 billion you're making on the other stuff is now 150 billion." Right? Like why would the suits support something that's considered a passion project? Now, I mean, goodwill does go a long way sometimes with consumers, but again, if they're feeling alienated, we're in this weird space. Like, do you see the Xbox going away in any of those scenarios? Like, do you think the Xbox may go away? Like, do you think the end is nigh? Is the beginning? Is this the beginning of the end? The Xbox 360 was the peak, and now we're starting to head toward the demise.
I don't know if it's coming or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Because again, I don't think they well, it's hard to say this because I think they care about the console. I think they would rather sell you an Xbox than you go out and buy a PS5 for sure. Right? Obviously. I don't think they want the console to die, but I don't think they're wedded to the console. I think they are willing to let it die if it has to, and won't try to claw and try to keep it in the market, right? Like desperately hanging on. I think they're ready to let it go if that time comes. Because kind of in your scenario you were talking about, they're making more money off of their software and services than they are their hardware. So what difference is it to them if people keep buying Xbox games on PlayStation? You know, they're making more money that way. So might as well let PlayStation do all the hard work of pushing consoles around the world, and they just turn on a switch and your game's there. You know what I mean?
Well, what's kind of scary about this though is competition. Like Nintendo does not see themselves as competition for PlayStation and Xbox. So then effectively PlayStation has a monopoly in a way.
Yeah.
And like I guarantee the prices will go up, you know. This is one of these situations where like losing a competitor from a business sense and eventually from a consumer sense is not a good idea. But
Right.
you're going to be hard pressed, if it's even possible at all, to convince the populace to be like, "Yo, you guys should be buying Xboxes in order to prevent future like price increases or a potential monopoly or whatever." Like you're not going to be able to convince the public of that, I don't think.
Although the competitor now might be PC and handhelds. That might be PlayStation's competitor. So the Xbox console falls away,
Right.
and PC, which is rising, PC gaming or PC like gaming hardware is going up, PC gamers are going up, and then handhelds are becoming a big thing right now. I don't know how well the other ones are doing. I mostly hear of Steam Deck, but there's the other ROG Ally and a couple other ones. I'm not sure how well they do, but
The
those
MSI
also seem to
Claw.
be yeah, those seem to be a growing market. So it just won't be another typical console. It will be other ways of gaming that's competing with PlayStation.
I'm trying to look at this situation without any nostalgia. Like, and it's difficult for
Right.
me for sure. Like, I'm trying to think to myself, like, if they were like, "Yo, Xbox is done," like I'd be like, that's a bummer. Like
Yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
sucks. Like that
Hmm.
really sucks. Man, this is gonna sound really weird. If PlayStation says no more PlayStation, I would say like, all right, fucking later. I don't know if
But you're
I'd
not a
care.
PlayStation guy.
I'm not a PlayStation guy, so like that's what
Yeah.
I mean by like I'm trying to look at it without that, but it's difficult for me to do that because I don't know. It's weird. It's like I have a PlayStation and the PlayStation 4. I got a PlayStation 4. I have a PlayStation 5, and I had a PS3 as well. Um, and I was a PlayStation guy primarily in PS2 era. What's weird is like in the PlayStation, like in the PS4 era, it was my primary console, and I didn't really touch my Xbox One that much. I remember there was like months went by, and I didn't really touch my Xbox One. There was a few like stints of that. What's weird is I just don't have the same connection with it as Xbox. Like I know that Phil Spencer was like, we lost the wrong
Generation to
generation
lose.
because like people have their digital libraries. If something's cheap on Xbox, I might just buy it on there even if I have it on PlayStation. Like I'm one of those guys. I don't know what it is. Like I'm more loyal to Xbox, and I don't know why that is.
Yeah, but I think probably in the larger scheme, most people have one console, right?
Right, right.
And so if you built up your library on PS4 and you can only afford one next gen console, you're gonna buy a PS5, right? That I think that's what they lost. There's always going to be multi-console people like you and I, but that
Right.
we probably make up a small. It'd be interesting to see the numbers on that though, because it was interesting at the end of the 360 era when Xbox was ahead the entire time, and then the PS3 in the last year or two came back and then outsold them. At the end like no longer being sold date, PS3 has outsold the 360. So were those 360 players buying PS3s to catch up on all the exclusives?
Well, there was that instant game collection. I remember that being a huge push where it was like if you buy the PS3, you
Hmm.
get an instant game collection, and it was filled, believe at the time, with a bunch of first party titles. I don't remember the titles that were in there at
Yeah.
this point, but I think Spyro or not Spyro. What's that raccoon? Sly Cooper. I think Sly Cooper was one of the front
Yeah.
men in some of the marketing materials. So I mean, like it's possible, right? Like especially when the PlayStation or that era, like the PS3 360 era was ending. I mean, it's relatively easy to get a PS3 used. I don't know if that would entitle you to the instant game collection, but like
But that
some
probably wouldn't be
people,
counted in sales, would it? Do they count used sales in terms of the overall unit sales?
it's a pretty good question because I guess I
Because,
was thinking PSN accounts, but I don't know if that's how
but
they
it
would
just
count
they,
it.
I don't think that would be recorded, unless it's like through like EB Games at the time or GameSpot or GameStop in the US.
That's a good question. Yeah, because like I have a PS3 used. I have a Slim, but it was because my like George Foreman grill broke,
Hmm.
and I had the Slim one, and I got that refurbished directly from EB Games. They gave me a controller and all that. It was basically like a new console, right? Like they cleaned it. It
Hmm.
was nice actually for the era. It was like super clean. Um,
I feel like
I don't know,
if Sony is reporting these numbers, it's probably how many units they sold direct to the resellers.
but if they have some sort of like official, I guess it wouldn't be official though. I was thinking like an official refurb, but like maybe if it was a Sony refurb, if that's even a
If they
thing,
if they did the refurb and then resold it, yeah.
right?
They're probably only tracking the numbers that they sold to resellers, I think. And then
Right.
they have
Okay.
PlayStation Direct, so they would know how direct to consumer. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. It's just one of those things that I think it's just going to happen, and we're just going to have to wait for it to happen. But it's going to be slow. I think. It's gonna be over time, and there definitely will be a next Xbox console. So we're not in the last generation of the Xbox. There will be another one.
Well, we'll see.
Uh,
Like they're killing it right now with Black Ops, and Stalker is coming.
yeah,
Like Stalker
yeah,
2 might be fucking awesome.
could be. I don't know how much excitement there is for
I'm fucking down, man. What do the kids say? Down bad. Hopefully that doesn't mean something bad.
it. God, you gotta look these things up, man.
Well, what's hilarious is like I still use TikTok, and so I pick up a lot of the lingo, but some of them that are used like only occasionally, I'll see it in a comment and be like, okay, like read the context, but the context could go 3 or 4 ways, so I got to see it multiple times, and if it's rare, then I don't get a great, I don't get a great peripheral of that information on that.
All right, let's move on to our next story here. Where am I at? Microsoft confirms plans to release an Xbox handheld. I mean, we're just kind of talking about handhelds,
Mm-hmm.
but it's years away. And this is from IGN. In an interview with Bloomberg, Spencer said, "The expectation is that we would do something in the handheld game devices category, but such a device is a few years out." Microsoft Spencer said is currently working on prototypes and considering what it might do with its team developing its vision for a handheld based on what it learns from looking at the market. In the shorter term, Microsoft will focus on improving the Xbox app so it works better on existing handheld gaming devices, Spencer added. Longer term, I love us building devices, Spencer said, and I think our team could do real innovative work, but we want to be informed by learning and what's happening now. Um, Maybe this is what the Xbox turns into, Matt.
Honestly, man, like I love my Steam Deck. I like tinkering with it. I use my Steam Deck as a tinker machine because it's not my main machine. So if I like brick it, I'll just like wipe it and redo it, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be down a console really.
Hmm.
So like I've been loving it for that. But I mean, there is an appeal to just docking it behind the TV, quick little dock. Oh, I'm going on a trip. Pick it up. Don't have to unhook anything. Just bring it with me and that's it. Like it's the reason why I think at this point I'll, for the most part, always have a gaming laptop. That I mean that's a big question mark because of these handhelds, but like that's the reason why I originally got into having a gaming laptop is because even though it's only maybe a couple times a year now, if I go to do a LAN party or if I'm away for a few days, it's like the gaming laptop's going to be really powerful. So it's basically like a desktop replacement that I don't have to bring a whole bunch of stuff with me. So I can bring a powerful machine with me. And then also, if I want to game or need to game, my monitor and everything's all built in, and all I got to bring is a mouse and a mouse pad, and it's all
Hmm.
in one bag instead of like okay, like we're going to do a LAN party, we're going to have like a whatever in a retro game night. I got to bring my computer, all the cables, I got to bring the monitor, the key, pain in the ass, right? So like this type of convenience is really cool. I am surprised to hear it's years away though.
Really?
I thought this thing was like going to be ready to go. I thought they were going to try to throw a punch at PlayStation and have a cheap series handheld.
Mm,
Because I bet you even the Series S hardware could run modern games at like 720p super, super well.
right.
And so they could probably miniaturize the Series S at this point. You throw it on a 720 mobile screen and you just have that thing at most 1080p when it's docked. Like that's enticing. You know what I mean? Like especially if the price is right, not bad, pretty good.
And I think I would prefer like the Steam Deck's the sexy thing right now, but I think I kind of would prefer an Xbox handheld. Like I haven't bought a Steam Deck. I would probably buy an Xbox handheld day one. You know, I don't know why, but I have a much larger library on Steam. But I don't know. I just like the idea of it.
Well, I have a theory that this is like I'm not convinced of this, but I do have a theory that this is not going to be a handheld in the conventional sense that we think it is. Like I think that most of us, when we hear Xbox handheld, we think a handheld Xbox console that runs the Xbox OS. I have a feeling this is going to be a gaming Surface.
What do you mean?
Like I think this is going to be like they're going to use their existing mobile technologies, like the Surface laptops and Surface tablets and things like that, and they're going to make an Xbox version of that may dual boot or something into the Xbox ecosystem, or into the Xbox OS. Like I think the Xbox OS is going to be present in
Mm,
some way. That's not what I'm saying. But what I think is going to happen here is these handhelds that are on the market right now. The Steam Deck is the most console like because of SteamOS. However, SteamOS is just Linux. So those that know how to tinker, like myself, could actually use the Steam Deck for work. I could absolutely work on the Steam Deck. Not amazingly, right? I need a fair bit of power. I got a lot of graphic stuff I deal with and stuff, but I could do it. Something like the ROG Ally, was that what it called? ROG Ally? The ROG Ally and the MSI Claw. Though actually I don't know anything about the MSI Claw, but the ROG Ally is Windows. This is like a Windows computer that's portable. I wonder if it will be a hard sell to say, hey guys, buy our Xbox handheld. It only does Xbox things. Because if you look at even other handhelds, like emulation centric handhelds, those are typically either like a Linux, a Windows, rarely, or they're Android, very commonly Android. And then it's like, use Android, like Android's fully fledged. So
mhm.
like it would, to me, it's like I feel like the Xbox handheld would actually be held back by the Xbox operating system.
Wow. Okay.
What do you think? Like, do you think that they would just release the Xbox operating system with on a handheld and it would just be a gaming machine? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
Why not? Why make something new when
Because they already have Windows running, and they didn't make this, but they already have Windows running on things like the ROG Ally. And so there's going to be a lot of like they could easily go in their R&D department and purchase a ROG Ally and an MSI Claw, assuming that's Windows. They could get these things and they could go, okay, how do we make Windows make it this thing really really nice for a handheld? It's already good enough to be commercially available, and I don't hear a lot of bitching. So then Microsoft themselves releases a handheld that doesn't have all the capabilities that a ROG Ally has. Now, I will say this. I don't know what the percentage of people are that is like docking these things and open up Microsoft Word. I don't know what the right. I might be talking out my ass. That's why I'm
one
not
percent?
convinced of this. But no, but the thing is it's still the opportunity of like they might sell it in a nice surface, like a nice surface package, nice tablet, like a Surface Book or something, even something like that, where it's
I
like
think
dock the tablet, then grab the tablet and connect it to your keyboard, and now it's Windows.
I think that's too nerdy thinking. Xbox is a consumer brand. It's not the Microsoft Windows PC brand,
Right.
right? It's meant for consumers who don't want to deal with that crap. It's going to run some simplified OS, whether it's the Xbox OS, which is Windows, but whether it's that, version of it or a custom one that they make that's just the Xbox app or something like that. I think it's definitely going to have that. It will not have full Windows on it.
You don't think it'll have full Windows on there?
Maybe they'll allow you to uh install that if you want to,
Right.
but just as a base thing, and they'll always promote it as just running an Xbox OS like that.
Well, we're also in a weird era
I'd make a Panzo bet on that.
where Windows is on ARM right now,
Yeah, that's
although the
true.
Xbox is not on
That
ARM.
ISO just came out too, apparently.
Really,
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting. But I don't know. Like I'm not convinced of this. Like I don't know if I'd Panzo bet it. I don't know.
Oh, you're
I'm
not
not.
not even for a Panzo.
It's a pretty low.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
a
hang on,
low
hang on,
bet.
hold it. Okay, let's define the parameters of this.
Okay.
The parameters would be what? Like, it doesn't have to necessarily dual boot. It might be like they get the Xbox software running as like a subsystem of Windows or something like that.
But
You
that's
know what I'm trying
technically
to
what it
say?
already is.
What's that?
That's technically what it already is, though.
There is that. I understand, but there's obviously like a lot of differences. Like when we boot up the Xbox launcher, we're booting up a Windows app. We're not booting
Yeah.
up the Xbox app. Like if it was so simple, like I think that they would just have the. To me, I think they would just have the game mode of Windows just be the Xbox. I feel like that would have been something they did way back when they made game mode.
Hmm.
So that's a theory, but anyway. So I'm thinking there's going to be my Panzo bet would be I think there's going to be a complexity to it. So it's going to be something like this handheld can, maybe it boots up as the Xbox OS, but it runs Windows apps or something like that. Like Windows specific apps. I'm talking like Word and stuff like that.
I guess there's the one issue. So currently on the Xbox. Oh wait, see, no, I'm thinking if they were to do it your way, I think that does create a lot of complexities. Because if it's just running some Windows thing, the Xbox app or something like that, wi- currently on the Windows PC, when you use the Xbox app to download, let's say, Overwatch, it installs it on BattleNet.
Yeah.
So that would create some complications if that is how the handheld was running. It would have to be Windows for it to launch BattleNet. Now, if it's just an Xbox app, it would just download Overwatch and that would be fine, right?
Like you're convincing me more and more that it won't be, but at the same time I'm worried that are people going to think it's too limited? Like a lot of guides, if you look up a lot of guides on the Steam Deck, a lot of it's like, oh, you want to do something a little custom? All right, cool. And yes, it is a niche, but it's like, all right, cool. Go into the Linux, you know what I mean? Like go into the Linux,
Yeah.
open the terminal, type in this command. I don't know if it still is, but the official instructions from Microsoft to get the Xbox Cloud Gaming app running, to get Xbox Cloud Gaming running, is to go into the terminal and enter some commands to register with, I think it's a Microsoft version or a Linux version of Microsoft Edge to get that version of Edge to acknowledge the controllers that are on board on the Steam Deck.
Hmm. So do you want to make a Panzo bet or not?
I like a Panzo bet, yeah. But like my Panzo bet, like in terms of the complexity, like I want to say that it's my Panzo bet is that there will be a complexity.
Okay. Well, if we try to simplify this, I'm willing to go. It'll be full Xbox app or Xbox OS.
Full Xbox
It
OS.
you will not have any access to Windows or any kind of back end thing, and it will not be able to run Word or anything like that.
So you're going full Xbox. I'm saying blend of some kind.
Yeah.
Whether the Xbox blends with the Windows or the Windows blends with the Xbox, that's my okay. That's fine.
I'm saying you're not gonna touch the Windows other than how it's already established with the Xbox currently.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm saying you might, whether it's the Windows UI or whether it's the apps.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
There you go.
Hanzo bet initiated.
Panzo bet initiated is right.
Virtual handshake.
Several years away.
Yeah. Now, one last question. Do you think PlayStation could potentially fall behind now? Because they had the Portal, which has apparently been successful. It's always like it was sold out for a while. Um, do you think they're making the wrong move here? Should they actually be entering into handhelds themselves?
I actually don't know. I don't know whether like a handheld would make or break you right now. The home console is still very popular. Like you even said right there, which is an interesting thing. Like to me, I was like, man, it'd be cool if I take my, my Microsoft Surface, which is my Xbox Surface, that's what I'm going to call it. My Xbox Surface, I'm connected to my keyboard. It's running Windows. I take it off of there. It's now a tablet, right? Or remove it from the keyboard. I dock it to the TV, and whether it automatically or I click a button to initiate it, it initiates the Xbox operating system, and then boom, I have my, my home theater running with the Xbox OS. That's really seamless to me. Like dock, click a button, maybe
Hmm.
undock, and then connect it to my keyboard. Keyboard initiates Surface mode, initiates Windows. That's really easy to me. But I mean, like I have a Steam Deck and I still haven't like set up the dock for it.
Right. Yeah.
So like it is kind of a weird complexity. It's like I have all these devices and there's like, cables over the damn place and stuff like that. But it's weird that like I haven't connected the Steam Deck up to like my home theater. And
Hmm.
so like adding any complexity short of like this box is for home theater. So my kind of like my question I guess is like, are hybrid devices really going to go anywhere?
That is the question. Like how, and the Switch is probably the best example. How many people play docked and how many people like exclusively play dock or exclusively play handheld?
Right.
And then how many people switch? Like what are those numbers? Nintendo probably knows that. They're probably collecting that data. I don't think that will ever stop them from having a switchable device, you know. But yeah, that's interesting.
They made it the easiest though.
Yeah.
That Switch dock is virtually like just a dumb piece of plastic that holds it up with a USB port.
Yeah, yeah. Just as like a PSP and Vita fan, I would like to see Sony do something. But I think where Xbox might be in the better position to do this is if the console doesn't become as important to them, they can make this thing that plays the same games. You know, the PSP and Vita played kind of games made for it. The Uncharted game was made for the Vita. It wasn't.
Right.
We weren't playing Uncharted 2 on that thing. You know, so it could eat away sales from their console. Sony might not want to do that, whereas Xbox doesn't care. You know,
Well, there is the whole thing too, where I mean, we do have performance and fidelity modes. I mean, clearly it's easier these days to like turn down the fidelity, so it's very possible that you could have again like a 720p PlayStation 5 experience in a
yeah,
handheld. Like that's probably not that crazy to think is possible.
yeah,
Well, I have a question for you actually, really quick. Like not to drag on the subject, but like one of the things I'm questioning is, let's just say a new generation comes out and it's Xbox, it's PlayStation coming out the same year again, and they each have a home console and they each have a handheld. Is there any like are you going to buy all of it? Are you going to buy the home console first, the portable, or is there something where you go, my Xbox is my secondary console, I'll buy the handheld and dock it. And then my PlayStation is the main thing and I'll get the most powerful thing, which is the home console because in this chances are the home console will be the most powerful.
right. I don't. That's a good question.
Like we're into the gen now. So us like kind of spending a little more money on the console department. I guess you just bought a PS5 Pro, but like,
Yeah.
buying like right now I'm looking at getting a memory card on Black Friday for my Xbox because I couldn't or I almost missed out on a Black Ops 6 session because of the fucking update because I didn't have enough space. So I'm just like, all right, that's it. We're done. We're done here. I'm getting more space.
You have that much on your Xbox?
I use the fuck out of Game Pass, man. Like I use
Wow.
Game Pass. That's
Wow.
fucking wild.
I think because I currently basically buy everything. You know what I mean? I have a PS5. I bought the PS5 Pro. I have a Xbox Series X. I have a gaming PC. I have
Yeah.
the freaking Switch OLED. I would probably buy both just to mess around with it,
At
you know?
launch though, like this is a new gen. This all gets announced same holiday season. Xbox, PlayStation, head to head again.
Well, I think even though I've rarely played my Series X, I would still buy the next gen Xbox.
Right.
Because there's also just a collector's mentality in my head too, right? Where I want to own all these consoles. So like, 30 years from now, I could be like, look at this old, Xbox Series X. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So there's a part of that I would do that for.
But would you? Well, like, what would you do it for both though? Like what I'm saying is like
I
you're
would
effectively gonna have four
definitely
consoles. You're gonna buy four consoles right at like quick succession.
I could probably say I would definitely buy the PlayStation handheld. Not the Portal. I haven't bought that yet because that's kind of ridiculous.
Right.
Um, but yeah, if it was a dedicated gaming handheld from PlayStation, I would definitely buy that day one.
And the home console.
And the home console, yeah. Yeah.
Would you buy the Xbox and the Xbox handheld?
I would probably buy the Xbox and then wait to see about the handheld. I don't know if I'd buy that day one or not.
I think I would buy personally the most powerful of each and then see how the handheld goes.
Mm,
Because like there is a reason why I never go for like the Xbox Series S, for example.
yeah.
I'm like, nah, give me the big one, give me the big dog. I'm surprised you'd buy another Xbox right away and consider the handheld. I mean, I guess the collector, but still,
The collector and the want to try it out. to see how it runs, to see how it performs, you know.
But you wouldn't. So like if you were to go, okay, so let's just say you buy the PlayStation Home, the home console. You purchase the PlayStation handheld. That's a given. You're a PlayStation guy. You then want an Xbox, and the Xbox home console is $700, and the Xbox handheld is 500.
Jeez.
Would you buy the handheld? It's like, oh,
God.
okay, like I'll get my Xbox fill, and it's $500. It's better than 700.
So
Almost
you're saying I
50%
would
better.
buy you're saying I buy the handheld instead of the console.
Yeah. Like, would you go, you know what? Like right now, there's an Xbox Series X and an Xbox Series S. I'm saying the
Mhm.
handheld is almost like the S. Like, they're like, hey, this is a lower power, but mobile, dockable console that's like smaller. It is a small Xbox that runs Xbox games like the S, but this one is portable, has a screen, it has a dock.
That's possible. I think that's possible.
Like, you wouldn't buy an Xbox Series S, which you didn't.
No.
But this is a different scenario where you're actually having a handheld now.
I think that's more likely than not, simply because I've played so many of my Xbox games on PC this last generation. So it's like maybe I will forego the next Xbox console and just get the handheld to kind of have fun with, but then still play the games on the PC,
Right.
right? That might be the most likely scenario. And then buy both of the PlayStation 1 because I'm a PlayStation fan. I'm like the opposite of you. You're the Xbox fan and I'm the PlayStation fan.
That's true. Well, I mean, the thing is though, is I don't know if I would buy the Xbox handheld right away. I would say,
Mm.
like, you definitely want to buy more. Like, I'm definitely down to be like, I'll buy it. Like, I'll get both sides, but I want the best of both sides, and then like leave me alone for a bit.
Yeah.
Like, leave me
Yeah.
alone for a bit. Let me see if I want the other one. Like,
Yeah. All right. Again, another thing where we're gonna have to wait and see what happens, what they actually do with
should have had
the
another
handheld.
Panzo bit. This is what we'd buy.
Yeah. Well, no, that because then we can adjust it. We really want that Panzo.
I mean, that's the thing though, is like, how much do you want to win? An extra fourteen
Yeah.
hundred bucks or something like.
All right. Moving on to the last story here. CD Projekt owned GOG begins preservation program to ensure the longevity of Fallout, The Witcher, and more. This is from IGN. So yeah, GOG has launched the GOG preservation program to ensure the longevity of over 100 games. The GOG preservation program is a commitment to from GOG to maintain games' compatibility with modern and future systems in an increasingly digital world. Quote, the GOG preservation program is our commitment to preserving gaming history. Through the program, players can trust that their games will always be up to date and ready to run on current and future PC setups. Whether it's manuals, DLCs, or missing features, we're offering the most complete version possible, backed by GOG's tech support and offline installers, so you can safeguard these classics for years to come. End quote. A total of 108 games are currently included in the GOG preservation program, and a list also containing Dragon Age Origins, System Shock 2, The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, Legacy of Kain, Defiance, Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor, Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 3, and Mad Max. GOG will add more games to the list over time.
Surprised to hear
I,
Mad Max in there. I mean, it's a good game, but I'm just surprised to hear it in there.
that is interesting, isn't it? That they chose
A
that one
lot
out
of
of the
heavy hitters.
108 games. But other games were like Fallout New Vegas, Witcher 2, Assassins of Kings. Um,
Assassins of Kings.
I think that was the name of the second game, wasn't it?
Oh, maybe. It's been a
But yeah,
long time.
I mean, a lot of people have been talking about game preservation. It's kind of good to see a actual large studio, um, hopefully with the resources to do this, actually working towards something like this.
This is a bit refreshing, right? This is actually like a
Hmm.
good story. It's not even really a question. Like, I don't know if anyone would be against this.
No, don't keep those games playable.
Nintendo would probably get pissed.
Yeah,
Like, what do you mean? What are you doing with our games? What are you doing with our IP? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo gets pretty pissed. I mean, maybe not, but maybe. But no, I think this is a cool project. I mean, because we do have a certain level of preservation with Game Pass, like things like Morrowind, for example. Morrowind is you can fucking stream Morrowind, which I still think is crazy. Like, what a
that's funny.
crazy, like, when we played Morrowind, our like the best PCs could run the view distance like 14 feet in front of you, and now it's like, yeah, just stream it like Netflix.
Hmm.
Back then, it'd be like, fuck is Netflix? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it was that
yeah.
far back at this point, and then now we're streaming stuff like that. So I mean, that thing's had a pretty good legacy and a pretty good run. And I think that Bethesda, I don't quote me on this, but I believe that Bethesda ensured that the version that was on Bethesda Net and then eventually was ported over or whatever to Steam when Bethesda Net closed down. I believe that version is compatible with like modern systems. So I
Mm.
mean, like that, like these, like some of these heavy hitters. I know I'm zooming in on Morrowinds, but mostly it's because I've played that one recently. Um, like a lot of these heavy hitters are still, good to go. Like they're still available. But so maybe that's why they actually mentioned Mad Max, because it's like, hey, we're not just trying to preserve, the best games. We're trying to preserve everything. Like Mad Max is really good. Like I'm not trying to poo poo it. I really like it, but it's just not. I mean, it's not a heavy hitter like Morrowind, like or like an
Yeah.
Oblivion or something like that. Like, obviously, but no, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't really have much else to say. Like, this is just a feel good story, and I hope it works out.
It's kind of what needs to be done too. You need like an actual organization to take this up and do it properly. And I like how it also talked manuals and missing features. Like they're trying to preserve everything that they can. So I'm imagining they're doing like digital manuals and storing those somehow or whatever they got to do for that, you know?
Well, that was really cool. A really cool part of the I think it was like the TMNT. Like, I forget, there was like a remaster of them or something like that. And it has all like the various like TMNT games. There's like I don't know if the remakes or whatever, but it's like the arcade games and this and that and everything. And I remember hearing Game Scoop talk about that. Oh, the Cowabunga bundle or the Cowabunga collection or whatever, that thing. And I remember them talking about it, and they said there's a ton of stuff in there. Like there's a ton of like manuals and there's a ton of like old media and things like that. And it's like super cool. And I was like, fuck, like that's a pretty cool way to preserve it too, where it's like it's actually a commercially viable thing where it's like, here's the Cowabunga collection. Can you actually check if it's called the Cowabunga collection before I make a fool of myself? But it's like the Cowabunga whatever bundle. It's like, we've done a lot of work here. We've made it work on modern consoles. We've made it work on, Switch and stuff like that. So handhelds. And here's like a collection of the stuff that comes with it, like the manuals and stuff like that. And so here's like a decent, I think it was only like $40 or something like that. Because I did buy it. I just haven't played it. Um, I have it for the Switch. And it's just like
Yeah, the Cowabunga collection.
Cowabunga collection. And it's like that's a commercially viable way to preserve that. Because like once you port it and get it working on a Switch, it's like, okay, it's not too crazy to have people still using Switches in 10 years. So you've
Hmm.
bought it 10 to 15 years kind of thing. Right. But it is difficult for someone to go like, oh yeah, just get a Windows 98 computer running. It's like, oh Jesus.
Yeah.
Like holy crap.
Yeah, so good on GOG. I think that's awesome. And I hope they get a lot of support for that. I don't know what kind of money they need to keep something like that up and running and paying people to track it all and do whatever they got to do. But I hope it goes well for them.
I'm
All right,
flipping through
that's it.
the I was gonna say I'm flipping through the list here, and it's a pretty good spread, I'd say. Like it's only at 100 right now, obviously, but there's one here you'll love, Marty, or I called you Marty, Ryan, because you know why I called you Marty? Because this game is called Tex Murphy, excuse me, Tex Murphy. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Tex Murphy, Mean Streets, and Martian Memorandum.
Damn it.
Holy crap, I can't say that, but yeah, this is a preserved game. Like they're keeping this thing alive. So there's a good spread of like real big heavy hitters. Morrowind's in here, Caesar 3's in here, a couple of there's a Lego game in here. Lego The Hobbit. Alpha Protocol, Ryan. Yeah. Espionage game, baby.
Wow.
And yeah, that's just I don't know. Sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to. Oh, here you go. Here we're talking about Indiana Jones coming out soon. Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, sorry, I'll stop talking now. But
All right, well, we're moving on to what we're playing, so you're gonna keep talking, man, because
what?
we're gonna know
You,
what you're playing.
you could always go first if you want.
Well, I guess I don't have too much to say. It's mostly been Dragon Age, the Veilguard, been chipping away at that more and more. Um, that's it. That's all I got to say.
What?
That's it. I mean,
Is it
oh,
good? Are you
oh,
gonna
wait,
beat
wait.
it?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good. But Overwatch Classic has come out. It's an event for like 3 weeks. Overwatch Classic, what basically is how the game launched.
Okay.
So there's only one game mode. You can there's 6v6 again because Overwatch 2 went down to 5v5. So
Yep.
it's back to 6v6. All the characters have the exact same abilities they had at launch. Um,
Oh, that's interesting.
and you can choose as many characters as you want. So you could have a whole team of Winstons or a whole team of Torbjorns or whatever. So we started playing that, and it's a bit of hell. It's pretty hellish.
Really?
Well, because like this is before they did any balance changes or adding different abilities to certain characters. So basically, all the characters are kind of worse. You know, they're just not very good, or at least you're not used to how to play them right now. Certain things like Diva can currently she can rocket towards someone while firing her guns and missiles. Right? You can't do that in this one. When you're rocketing around, you can't shoot. Right? So it's clearly like an evasive thing. It's not like right now I use it as an attack. Right? If I see someone who's weak, I will boost towards them while firing rockets and my guns at them. You can't do that in the original one. So
That's
it
that's
takes
gonna fuck with your muscle memory, and then you're gonna have to go
yeah,
back in a few weeks.
yeah. Well, we're kind of swapping between the two, so maybe we're all get screwed up. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so that's been kind of fun. Interesting little thing they're bringing back. Adrian was hoping they bring it back as a permanent game mode. I kind of don't see that happening.
Oh, was he
And then I
playing that with
joke,
you?
yeah. And then I jokingly said that maybe they introduced this to show us how bad Overwatch 1 actually was, and that Overwatch 2 is much better.
Although this is like unpatched or not patched much Overwatch 1, right? That's what this legacy thing is. Because Overwatch 1 got a fair bit of changes by the end of its life. Because I remember like characters were added, different abilities were changed, characters were reworked. And then like when Overwatch 2 came out, it was just like they just continued doing that. Like it was kind of like that initial launch. It's the free to play title, and then they just kept going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it,
Hmm.
I don't know. Overwatch 2 feels bad. So maybe this is a reminder of being like, yo, but it could be worse.
It could be worse. It was worse. It was worse back in the day. Uh, so yeah, Matt, what are you playing?
Well, funny you mention it. There is like an Apex mode like this, kind of like a legacy mode where we're going back to the original King's Canyon, and you can only use the original characters. I don't know if the characters are using the most recent moves or balances or anything. I'm not that versed in Apex, but I do know that I can't use my character, which is Fuse. So I have to go back and use. I call him Krieger because he kind of looks like it, but it's not Krieger. It's the guy who throws like gas traps, gas bombs all over the place. So there's that. So I use him. It's an adjustment because Fuse is much faster, and I like his it's called a knuckle cluster, which is like basically you like shoot it off your wrist, and it's like a grenade that sticks to them, but then it keeps like popping. It's like air burst kind of like in the area, so it like really pushes people out of cover. So I play support, but no, we've already gotten a win in it, which was fucking crazy, and we were all alive too. We keep getting placed with like masters and like really high ranks, and we just kicked ass the one game, which was awesome. We all contributed too. I like getting wins obviously, but I hate it when it's like everyone's got like 2,000 damage and Matt's got 40 and I was dead. So
Hmm.
this was like I was within like 100 of everyone else, so that was a nice win. But other than that, man, it's been Call of Duty time. Like Call of Duty
Wow.
time. I'm almost on Prestige 2. I'm
Wow.
approaching Prestige 2, like 15 levels away or something. Um, been like getting into the guns and like figuring out like what builds I want for the different guns, and like I'm doing is I'm working on all the lower level guns so that when I prestige I can just like have those guns.
Hmm.
There's a permanent unlock token that you're given every prestige as far as I'm aware, and you can use that to unlock anything you want. So I mean, value wise, I would normally want to unlock something that is like in the levels and and like is useful. So that's why I'm kind of like preparing all this like early equipment, because I would like to try and get to 10th prestige in this game. I'm not going to set it as like a super hard goal or anything. I'm not going too crazy with it. It might take me
Cancel
over a
bet.
year. I might just give up too. But like I'm having a ton of fun with it, and it'd be cool because I've never hit a 10th prestige in any of these games. Season 1 has begun, And so Ryan, this is how they're making their money. So there's a battle pass. The battle pass costs a certain amount of COD points, which is their currency, COD points. I have a bunch of COD points having played the seasons in Modern Warfare 2. So I have enough to purchase the season. Last night I did not purchase the season because at the end of each page there is like a special reward, or the end of most pages there's a special reward in the battle pass that is only unlockable if you have the black cell version of the battle pass, which requires a purchase of real money, $36.99, I believe it is in Canada. So you have to upgrade to the Vault Edition, which gives you all the skins and all that crap, like the big zombie guy and all that. You have to buy that, which includes Black Cell. It also gives you a bunch of stuff. I think it gives you 20 level skips, right? Tier skips. It gives you a whole bunch of stuff. And so that is what's holding me up is I'm like, man, like I was so excited to get Call of Duty for free, quote unquote, through Game Pass. Do I really want to pay $36.99 now? I honestly am probably going to do it because I think it's just like I like the game a lot. It's like a little reward, and I still save like half the purchase price, if not more. So I don't know. Because the Black Cell stuff, man, the skins are getting silly. There's a dragon lady. You can dress up as a dragon. There's fire and the whole shebang. Like this game does not give a fuck about realism. Like there's freaking dragons running around our map. Like it's ridiculous. So that's been honestly what I've been doing is a lot of Black Ops and Black Ops 6, and I have not really played much else other than, like I told you, a little bit of Apex. And I think that's it. I don't even booted really up my PlayStation, I don't think.
Oh yeah, wow.
Been all Black Ops, man.
Did you hear about the pacifist who got to the first prestige without killing anyone?
Yeah, freaking maniac. I do like stories like that, but I would
Yeah.
not have the patience.
No. That's pretty
But
amazing.
but man, like it feels good that Xbox is like doing good right now. Like they have some good titles. Stalker
They
comes
needed it.
out
They
next
needed to
week.
win.
Yeah. And Stalker comes out next week. I want to say Wednesday. I don't know. I pre-installed it and I'll let the Xbox tell me. But if Stalker 2 is awesome, like, man, uninstalled Starfield. That's another thing I guess I
Oh,
did this
oh.
week. I was sitting there and I needed space because I wanted to install Stalker. And I was like, man, like Stalker's like a big RPG. And I was like, well, I'm not going to play two big RPGs. And I was looking around and I was like, fuck Starfield. And I just got rid of it. Tragic. Never played the DLC. Horrible.
Damn.
Never booted up the
Damn.
smartwatch. God. Starfield sucks. There it is. It's heartless and it sucks. And it feels good to be playing a good game from Microsoft. But that's it. I think that's largely been my week. That's been it.
Cool. Um, I guess we were playing Remnant 2. We finished the DLC, right?
On stream. That's all together. That's right.
Yeah. So I don't know where we'll be streaming next week or this upcoming Wednesday.
We'll figure that out. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll chat in the Discord probably over the weekend or something.
But you can find that twitch.tv/DamonPatch Media Wednesdays at 8 sometimes 9 p.m. Eastern. Just kind of depends when we're going live.
Well, sometimes we
Yep.
set up, sometimes we test things, sometimes we're chatting.
But Tim wants us to start earlier, which is nice. It's kind of nice getting off more at around like 10 than 11. But
Although we've been doing like 8 to 11. Like I think we started at 8 sharp. To my not to toot my own horn, to my own credit, last 2-3 weeks I've been on
you've been
right at
ready, yeah.
8 or
Yeah.
8:01.
Yeah.
And if I'm not in the chat, I'm chatting with you guys being like, when are you going to join this call? But like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to play. We'll see.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Yo, peace.